What's up, Tim Sykes here. Very exciting day. I know the markets are plunging, but not everybody is losing. I'm having green days every single day lately. There's been a supernova literally every single day. Stocks jumping 50, 100, 500, even 1,000% in a day. Jack Kellogg, literally my top earning student lately, just made $1 million yesterday as I'm about to interview him. He made like another $150,000, $200,000 today. So he's been on fire. I want to get into his brain and see what he did so right. The market has been volatile, but if you're prepared, the volatility creates opportunity. So listen to what Jack says, pay attention. He studies the market nonstop, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say. I'm gonna start this interview in like 5 minutes. Stay tuned. But I'll post it on the video like 5 seconds. Explain your diet to everybody.
3 500-calorie meals per day. I'm in a calorie deficit.
How does it feel?
I'm always hungry.
Does that make you a better trader? Because you're like, I want those profits.
I don't think so. I just think the market's making me a better trader right now. There's so many opportunities out there, man.
Explain this for a second, because 99.9% of people who are going to see this video are freaking out. They're losing money. They're going down with the ship. Their retirement is dropping. The headlines are all negative. How do we get them to see the light?
I think people over leverage their long-term stocks, and I think it all starts with 401ks and starts with long-term stock portfolios where people start loading just these long-term accounts, and it goes up so gradually that you really feel like you're earning the money. But when the market crashes, it's always so violent and so fast that people often make very bad decisions in times like this where they think the world's basically ending, right? And that's what I'm seeing a lot of people, and a lot of people saying, and it's creating a lot of opportunities for playing the classic number 5 pattern and panic dip buying the market when it gets too oversold. And also there's been opportunities to short the support crack, short bad news when it comes out. And there's been just a ton of opportunity just to play the volatility that Trump is giving us and kind of shift out of this mindset of you need to just get long and hold long, because with all the volatility, you're not going to be able to mentally handle these swings right now. You want to be swing trading when it's slow and boring. You want to be taking faster trades when you can be making. I mean, for example, the QQQ tech companies went from low a day to high a day yesterday in the first hour, and it was a 10% move on the overall markets, which is how much the market's supposed to move over 1 year, and it did it in an hour. And then today we had the biggest ever round trip. So the market was up like 4%, and we finished down a couple percent. QQQ's down 3% right now. So there's just so much volatility out there to take advantage of.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you said that. I want people to be more opportunistic. I've been saying, sit on the sidelines, be ready for these plays. And you've done a great job. You and I were talking the past few days as the market was tanking, Thursday and Friday, and you're like, I'm ready Monday. What did you do to prepare? Because most people don't realize everything that you do when the market is closed, or even when the market is open and you're not necessarily trading. How did you really prepare for Monday?
Yeah, so a lot of the times with the overall market and with bigger stocks and companies, when a stock gaps up too much or gaps down too much after already going in that same direction, so if we're seeing like 3 days down and then a big gap down, or if we're seeing like 3 days up and a big gap up, it just becomes a liquidity problem, and it gives you like a lot of edge when the market does open. So studying just these extension charts, so you can scroll back on the Qs or SPY, and you can see what happens when the market goes red. Like, for example, we had the same exact thing happen in August when Lance had his biggest trade ever. It was the same exact thing. Like, we had the fear of the Japan thing and the carry trade, and we went down for 2 days really big. Then we gapped down huge over the weekend, I'm pretty sure. And then it just ripped right off market open, and we got a really nice bounce. And if you scroll back, I went all the way back actually to 2015 on the SPY, which was which was the chart that looked the most clean and similar to what happened. And it actually even followed the pattern today, where the next day it gapped up and then sold off. Did the same thing today that it did in 2015. So looking at the past and just being prepared, and also not taking losses on the way down. So a lot of people, I'm sure they traded. I didn't trade at all Friday or Thursday. And I didn't trade really at all Wednesday either. I think I took maybe a small loss on Wednesday, but my majority of my losses I took were on Monday of last week, when the Chinese market started to really tank and break through support, because I was swinging some Chinese stocks and studying the history, man. Studying the history. That's really what.
So I'm in Colombia, opening 2 schools. We actually just saw a cool new school site today. I'll be posting about it soon. But I'm here with, Eduardo. I'm here with David Hanlon, Kyle Williams, Mike Huddy, all in St. Lucie, all millionaire traders. And what Jack was just saying about 2015, I wasn't recording. I was actually just having a conversation the other day with David Hanlon. But literally, on his chart, he was going back to 2015 and he was looking at that. And David Hanlon didn't make quite as much as Jack yesterday, but he made like $89,000. And he was actually pretty pissed. And he was like, this should have been a 6-figure day. And I was like, boo hoo, poor David Hanlon, only making an annual salary in an hour. Jack, how much did you make yesterday?
Yesterday,
Yeah.
I think I made $1,050,000, something like that.
In how long of a time period?
Well, I entered the trade. I started entering small and pre-market around 8:30, but I wasn't full size till the morning panic. Around 9:45 a.m. I was full size, and then I think I was out by like 10:30. It was like less than 2 hours from start to finish.
So $1 million in 2 hours. How did it feel when you were clicking the button to sell the last of it?
I couldn't really even it was pretty uneventful, because I didn't really even, the entire DAS trader, I'm sure you heard of this, the whole thing was lagging. So, and E-Trade was lagging too. So didn't even see really my P&L. I was just looking at the chart on my phone, and all of a sudden, the DAS level 2, it literally went from, I was in TQQQ, I was at 38 or 39. All of a sudden it was 42 or some or 43. I was like, what? And then by the time I got the chart up, it was in the 45s, and I sold, just because that was an absolutely epic move. And then it ended up dropping pretty hard. Didn't really feel anything, and then it started dropping, and I was pissed that I didn't short it after it was fake news. So I was just fuck, I should have got the short too.
So you wrote it up, you didn't have quotes, you're checking the charts on your phone, you don't even know that you're up $1 million, you have an idea that you're up huge. Again, we were here in Colombia, David Hanlon's quotes were all off. He has DOS on 2 separate brokers, and literally the same software on 2 different brokers was showing 2 different prices. It was such a mess. And I made the meme that Jack is like Neo, because if you remember the Matrix, Neo is blind and he still wins. It was an impressive trade, and to make $1 million, that's beautiful. But listen to what Jack said. He's not thinking about the profit and loss. You didn't aim to make $1 million, and then when you saw your profit and loss at $1 million, you took it. You're playing the chart, right?
Yeah, I had an idea. I mean, I originally got into the trade thinking that it would be a 2 or 3 day swing back up to those levels. And I mean, just the crazy volatility. So, I mean, I was planning to make maybe 700K to $1 million, depending on how the trade planned out, if it worked, and losing 100, 150, 200K if it didn't work out. But like I said, I thought it was going to be 2 to 3 days, not 2 hours. You know what I mean? But that's the kind of volatility that we have. And it's just
look,
a reminder,
the
Trump market is crazy, man. It is so volatile, and people can't handle it. And I can't handle it at sometimes either because we're so used to, I mean, 2023 and 2024 and 2022 too. Like it was all just like so slow. Like it was terribly slow. But if you study the past and you look at 2018 and you look at 2020, um, and all this, like that's when you'll see like faster moves. But the market's been so slow, so people just they can't really believe it because it's been so long since we've seen this kind of stuff.
You're on your iPhone now, right? Can you just hold the iPhone up to the light above you? Because like people are seeing the light with this interview. Look at the light, people. See the light. Okay. This is Jack's office with the custom lights. It's pretty cool. That's why he had people over and he's got the plastic on the door. He's not like a serial killer. You know, it looks like it's like a Dexter type room, but he's really just under construction. He bought a beautiful house. This is what it's all about. Okay. Like Jack also texted me, I didn't know this was your 100th month anniversary.
Yep.
100 months since you started trading. In the beginning, I like to remind people your first 18 months, you were down 10K, right?
Yeah, I think it was about 10K.
And you took 3 months off. So, you know, just because Jack is making $1 million in 2 hours, which is awesome, and he sized up and he nailed it, he doesn't even need real time quotes. He's studying the past, he's prepared. But in the beginning, it was tough. And he had to go through that tough part, trading small. Tim Grittani, the same thing. He didn't make a lot of money his first year, he was break even. And now, you know, 8 figures too. This is what I love. You know, you've built a foundation, not just to your beautiful new house, but to your trading education. And that's really the key. Have you learned anything about like, you know, foundations and like construction while you're adding to your house?
Yeah, I mean, good things take time, right? And it's whether it's the house construction project or it's making good investments in yourself or in whatever else endeavor you have. Like it's very hard to pick something up that's challenging and you're just going to be amazing at it right away. Like I just started CrossFit and I suck. Like I'm losing to women that are overweight, you know, they just have better form and they've been doing it longer. You know what I mean? And um, if you want to get good at something, like you need to build the foundation. You need to learn the right form. You need to put in the time, and you slowly get better and better and better and better, and eventually you become consistently profitable. And you're going to be profitable probably after 2 to 3 years. Like if you make money in your first 6 months, I guarantee you're going to probably round trip all that and you're going to screw yourself in the end because it's going to be way more painful. Versus if you lose at the beginning, those losses are actually good because when you do make money, you're going to have a much better foundation, right? So like somebody can get paint on the wall, right? They can get like this kind of paint just right on the wall, just like that. But if you don't sand it down, if you don't put the primer on, if you don't do one coat first, then another coat, then polish it, it's not gonna stay well. Like it's gonna crumble over the years, and the first sign of deterioration is gonna all just unravel.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
you
all
got the
about the
proper
foundation.
foundation. You got the proper foundation in the house, proper foundation in trading. And you know, even though Jack made, you know, $1 million yesterday, and how much did you make today? Like another 200,000?
I took a small loss dip buying near red to green. But yeah, I made about 150 or something, 160, something like that.
So 1.2 million in 2 days. That's awesome. But he's also had some losses. And he had a lot of losses earlier that has allowed him to learn how to take those losses. And you know, you hear him like when he's describing his $1 million gain, he's pissed that he didn't take the short because of the fake news. Like, you know, he's always thinking about the next trade. He's never satisfied. And that's what I love about his attitude. And that's what I want from more people. He has the right mindset. And that's what you really need. Like, this market is scary for a lot of people, not because the market is so impossible to profit off of. You know, I'm staying green, trading small, making a few $1,000s per week every single day. There's been another big supernova, so it suits me just fine. But people with the wrong mindset, those people who are hodling, long-term investors who are too, concentrated into this, thinking that like, Nvidia and Meta and Amazon will just keep going up, buying every 5% dip. I don't know if you saw this, Jack. Last Thursday was the biggest day of retail buying ever. 4.7 billion bought on Thursday. That's before the big 5% drop on Friday and before the 5% drop initially on Monday and now the 4% drop on Tuesday. So that 4.7 billion, all the retail investors, they're dip buying. They're like, oh, we got a 5 or 7% off dip off the highs. And in the past, they've always bought those small dips and they've been rewarded. Now they're getting just crushed. And I know that most retail traders don't have the right mindset. They're not planning. Maybe they're doubling up, tripling up, quadrupling up. I mean, God forbid, if tomorrow is another 5% day, that could lead to the ultimate panic. What do you think about that, Jack?
Yeah, I was gonna make a tweet about this. Um, so my overall thought right now on the market is that like we're getting pretty close to max fear, I would say. I would say that a lot of people are selling quote unquote long-term positions that they have where they've held through this whole drop and now they're just gonna sell it tomorrow. Today is like one of the biggest red days, like body candles from open to close that we've seen. And right now we're still like around the weekly open. And I think that traders are pricing in China to retaliate against us tonight because it's been so insane. Like we obviously retaliated against China today with 104% tariff or whatever, and that really caused the market to drop. And I think the reason we really sold off is because everyone is starting to think, hey, China's going to retaliate on tariffs against us. And that is what I think I think that's what people are pricing in right now. And people are starting to lose hope that there's going to be some type of deal made. And everyone is just expecting this to just keep spiraling out of control. Obviously, Trump keeps saying he doesn't give a shit about the market. China doesn't give a shit. They're going to keep going down. But I think that we're closer to a resolution than we were a week ago. So that's something to keep in mind. Does the market going to bottom from here and go up? I don't think so. I think we're probably going to be in for some more pain, but I think we're kind of getting close to some type of resolution in the near future, because if you study the past, you'll see that, for the market to go down 50, 60, 70%, like we haven't seen those types of numbers, and we're down like 30% right now. So we're really hitting this
Well, let
threshold in
me
my
correct
opinion.
you there. The S&P 500 is only down 20%. It's the Mag 7 that's down 30%, and that's what everyone thinks is the overall market. But the Mag 7 led us up, and now it's leading us down. The overall
Yeah,
market isn't down 30% yet.
not yet.
But here's the thing, too. So for me, I look at all the tariff news. I mean, it was pretty crazy with the whole run up yesterday with the fake news and the denial. And we were still up. And then today we come back down and now we're right near the lows. I'm worried about debt and leverage. Like we've seen several traders with big accounts blow up, lose 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years of work. They're fed up, they're over leveraged, they were wrong just for a few percentage. But when you use leverage, it magnifies everything. We don't realize how over leveraged everything in finance is. It's not just some traders. And, Warren Buffett has this great quote, and Warren Buffett has, he has 340 billion in cash. He saw this all coming. He truly is the oracle. He's the only one outperforming. But he has a great quote where he's like, you don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. And right now, the tide is going out, and we don't know how bad it can get with leverage. Like, you weren't old enough, Jack, to remember long-term capital management in 2008, which almost took down the entire financial sector. That was one over-leveraged hedge fund. How many long-term capitals are there? There could be 5, there could be 10, and they're leveraged 50 to 1, 100 to 1. So forget about just the tariffs for a second. I'm worried about one of these black swans happening. And if one goes, then 5 others go and 10 others go because everyone, again, was riding up the Mag 7. I'm always worried about people and funds, riding each other's coattails. Even if there is like outperformance, even if there is alpha, there's so many traders that don't think, they're not self-sufficient. They don't think on their own, and hedge funds too, because they're always searching, right? So like we know some traders who have gotten really hurt with Chinese stocks because they were riding a lot of the hedge funds. They were invested in Chinese stocks. The hedge funds, some of these hedge funds are some of the biggest hedge funds in the world, and they did have some gains and some probably solid gains on China, but because they're so big, they can't necessarily get out fast enough. So now the trend has turned on the Mag 7 and the China trade, and I don't know, just what's going on with the debt and the leverage. That's what I'm really worried about. So we might be fumbling around for the bottom, but there's always that chance that you have that massive, massive, massive panic. And if you get that, I mean, we go down another 10, another 20%. A few weeks ago, I brought up a chart of orange juice. Do you remember I sent you that chart, Jack?
Yep, I remember.
Look at the chart of orange juice. We'll pull it up in this interview. It keeps dropping. Orange juice dropped 50% with no bounce, and that was just in 2025 alone. And I get, again, orange juice, the stock market, two very different things, but it's the same kind of price action where it's like, this has to bottom sometime, right? But we've been up so much, and there's so much debt in the US government. There's so much leverage in the financial markets. That's what scares me. And I don't know, how bad that can be. Like, I don't know if do you remember the long-term capital management story, Jack?
Nope, I never studied it.
So legit, they had 100-to-1 leverage. So they're betting literally tens, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars. I don't know the exact number, but it's like stupid the amount of leverage that they were using. And they were, the smartest people in the room. They all had great PhDs. They all worked for like Goldman Sachs, and they got it wrong. Okay. And they almost took down the entire US financial system. And I'm not saying that the tariffs are necessarily going to do that, but like trying to deflate a bubble, which is, you can make an argument that the US stock market has been in a bubble with all the government debts and all the leverage. You can't pop a bubble like gently, right? Like if you look at a balloon and you take a pin to it, you can't just like slow motion pop that balloon. You can maybe make a video and make it look like slow motion, but if you take a pin to a balloon, it pops. And that's what I'm scared of, because this kind of price action looks like some big hedge fund, not just the tariff news, is selling. What do you think about that?
No, it's definitely a good point that some people get forced out on the overall market, the overall trend. I just don't know who's still offering that type of leverage. I'm sure it's out there, but I don't think it's very common in the U.S. stock market. I think it's a much more common thing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And Bitcoin's been holding up pretty well. But Michael Saylor's average on Bitcoin is, I think it's, I don't know, 67 or 68K, and we're down in the mid 70s. So that's something I would be more concerned about, because I know every broker out there offers 50 to 100 leverage on crypto. So I think there's much more leverage out in the crypto space. In terms of stock market, I think just the stock market is so big at this point. Like it's worth trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that I think the odds, or I think having one player in the market to ruin $1 trillion market would or trillions of dollars a market would truly be something insane. So I would be more watching that type of scenario in the crypto market because of the leverage capabilities. Like I know a lot of brokers are only offering 2x buying power overnight.
Well, let me bring up some stats. So long-term capital, it pissed me off that I didn't know the exact numbers. I just Googled it. Long-term capital had about $4 billion, and their on-balance sheet leverage was 27-to-1. So with 4 billion, they were trading with 125 billion. But they had an off-balance sheet, which was not disclosed, with 250 times leverage. So there's retail leverage and then there's hedge fund leverage. And hedge fund leverage is this crazy beast that we know nothing about, and they can hide it with interconnected markets. Look, they're chasing alpha, and if you're chasing alpha on billions of dollars, like you need to push it, and that's what a lot of these funds do. So I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist saying like there's definitely a hedge fund out there or hedge funds that are doing that, but it could be the case. And when you have these things dropping, what Jack was saying about crypto potentially dropping, there's a great book, another historical study called Bubble in the Sun, which is about the Florida bubble in the 1920s. People don't realize it. People think, oh, the stock market was roaring in the 1920s when it crashed in 1929. That wiped out a lot of people. That led to the Great Depression in the 1930s. The author makes the case that yes, the stock market did crash, but they came up with all these stats. And again, it's tough to see what's real and what's not based on the 1920s, but that he says, and the whole author makes a whole like point about this. They say that there's many more people who went bust in the Florida land bust of the 1920s than the stock market. We think of everyone involved in the stock market now. Back then, there weren't as many people. So what if crypto is this year's Florida bubble that's about to pop? Because if crypto does pop, then it takes down a lot of the funds, seeking alpha. But then again, like crypto, the whole crypto sphere is only a few $1 trillion. It pales in comparison. Like it's like if you take all of Bitcoin and all of crypto, it's less market cap than just Apple. So it's not as big as people think, but it could influence people. Again, you have the hedge funds chasing alpha. Bitcoin is the best performing asset of the past decade. So I just want people to be careful. I love what Jack is doing, where he's now using his newfound wealth to really size in when the odds are good. I came up with a number 5 pattern for promoters who needed to like support their pump and dumps, but the number 5 pattern did play out the other day on the NASDAQ. Like we got the gap down and then we got, more panic, and Jack like sized in pretty well. So that was fantastic. Jack also, I don't know if you mentioned how you made 150,000 overnight, but you were long overnight on the TQQQs, right?
Yeah, much smaller size though because of overnight risk. You know what I mean? So I was using like a third of my size that I had on for maybe even less with the, cause I had some options too. Maybe
But
even,
still,
yeah.
but
But that
still,
was
it was a
great
first
because
trade.
I mean we closed, near red to green. Um, we stabilized all day, and at that point we went up in after hours too. It's like at that point I'm risking probably $1 or $2 a share to make $4 or $5 a share, and if I'm wrong and there's freak news overnight, then I can take the trade off for a bigger than loss than expected. But that's why I sized in less, because there's less control overnight. So
You
I was
also
happy with that trade
you
too.
gave a great alert to the Seven Figures Club, and that was beautiful. That was an easy trade that people could take. This is no different than like a first green day trade when you have a stock. In this case, it's a whole index, but when a stock is down 2 or 3 days in a row, especially big, and theoretically there's going to be some dip buyers, that change of momentum, it scares shorts. Shorts start sensing out the bottom, where it's like, wait a minute, we're down so much over 3 days. And now it's kind of like flatlining. So plus or minus 1%, it's not really worth it for big short sellers to hold their position short overnight. And that leads to some momentum. And then the momentum carried over. And then Jack played that one well. Were you giving yourself a pat on your back after the overnight trade?
Yeah, that was good. I want to mention a couple other points that I was considering when taking the trade. So if you studied and looked at what the overseas markets did on Monday, I think, was it Monday? Yeah, it was Monday before we opened. They were all limiting down. Alibaba had its worst day ever, down 19% in China. Japan was limiting down. The Chinese stock market was down 13%. So for that to happen again after we finished flat, I thought would be so low, and I thought that people would be limiting up the other markets, seeing how we did. And then on top of that, I think that the market, it pushed a little into like 2 or 3 p.m. and then it pulled back into 3 p.m. I think that was also people de-risking overnight, and then they would have to put the risk back on in the morning because they realized that nothing happened. So you got that liquidity down to buy, and then you got that liquidity up to sell.
I like it. You know, you're analyzing all of these trends, and this is what people don't realize. Like people think like when you enter a trade, it's just like, oh, bullish or bearish. Like it's so simple. But you're studying history, you're studying other markets. The more prepared you are, the better. I always say study hard, and people are like, all right, enough of that. I don't need to study. Like, I'm just trusting my gut. Notice how Jack is betting big. He's not trusting his gut. He's using his experience, 100 months. Congratulations on 100 months. But he's also studying other markets. He's studying the past. Every single one of you watching this, I guarantee you're understudied compared to Jack. Okay. He just wants it more. And when you want it more, you succeed. Not all the time. Jack has losses too, but because he's so hungry, like even after he makes $1 million, he's not celebrating. He's not going out to flying out to Vegas. He's like, damn, I should have gotten that short.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not really about the money anymore for me. I mean, I've been able to be fortunate enough, first of all, to help my parents out, and then get a truck, car, quads, boat, house, and fortunate enough to pay for all that in cash, and also have other investments that are able to pay for my lifestyle. So the way that I'm just not really trading for the money anymore. I'm really trading because I love figuring out the game, and every day that I wake up, I get to have a new challenge to figure something new out. And that's also what's always kept me from growing. Like I started with very simple OTC patterns, and I did OTCs, just simply buying first green days that were closing strong, and then evolving into buying breakouts and buying and panic dip buys. Um, then predicting like stocks that were going to gap up overnight because of the news, buying stocks at market open, and then evolving into small caps and learning small cap technicals, learning small cap fundamentals, learning mid caps, learning meme stocks, learning crypto, learning options. I've been my new quest has been options, and the overall market. I've always kind of been following for the last 4 years and just waiting for like this kind of volatility, learning, long-term investing, all this kind of stuff. So there's always something new to learn, and that's really what I love about money management, I guess. And I'd rather be learning about something on my computer than out partying or out or in bed watching Netflix or whatever it is, because it really keeps my mind activated. And sometimes stuff's too boring and there's not enough. It's not necessarily thrill, but it's more so just it's just not like interesting to me, I guess. Kind of like how school was and reading literature and doing all this other that didn't interest me. But I really enjoy data and numbers and simple math, and video games, and trading's kind of a huge combination of all of that.
And now you're teaching too, and you're enjoying teaching. Like, what has been some of the rewarding, teaching moments now that you have, the Jack Kellogg newsletter, Seven Figure Cycles, which everyone watching should join. You have PSI, Power Signal Indicator. Can you just like talk about what you're doing with these and how that's helped people?
Yeah, so I launched Seven Figure Cycles at like the most perfect time, and the pick that I had for the first pick, which was SINT, ended up gapping up. Or first of all, Fifi I think ran like a week after that, and I was long from like 6 cents, and it went to like $4.50. Some people were buying it at 10 cents and selling it at like $2 or $3. Like got a couple messages about that, and also SINT was like I think my biggest overnight gap up in terms of a percent. I think I made like 250% overnight. It gapped up from like 5 cents to like 20 cents or something, and went all the way up to 25. And everybody crushed that. And BBAI was obviously another big one that everybody crushed. And it's just been awesome to help people out with their finances, because there's a lot of market for everyone, you know what I mean? And for me to really share an idea that I'm passionate on and see people succeed so much on it and sometimes outperform me, especially on the PSI alerts. I know JC often sells too soon, and I sell too soon on those too.
I sell too
And
soon.
some of the students just, really time it so much better. And it's really inspiring to see because I kind of wonder how they do it, and it pushes me to get better, and then I push them to get better. So it's just this constant thing where it's helping me and it's helping them, and it's just a really beautiful, mutually beneficial uh, thing that we've created.
Yeah, like this is why I love teaching. It makes me a better trader. I always sell too soon. I'm not angry when like students outperform. I'm encouraged and I'm motivated and we're all bouncing ideas off each other. And it's pretty cool that you can see what other traders like Jack are doing so well. I'm excited for Jack to come to the inner circle in Mexico. That's going to be crazy. That villa is going to be like the James Bond lair, but it's really cool. Like that's the power of this community. Like trading can also get very lonely. A lot of people think that it's just about the money, but we've met so many great people, and we all push each other. Like Jack said a great thing, like mutually assured, like challenging. It's like mutually assured success, right? Like the Cold War, nuclear war is like mutually assured destruction, where you're just like scared of that and everyone's like guaranteed to lose. This is if you bounce enough ideas off people and you actually stick with your education. Like there's so many successful students, more and more are coming up, and it's amazing. Like even in the inner circle, Stratty, not yet a millionaire, but he will be in the coming months and years. He just wants it, and it's cool to see. Jack has been helping Stratty. That hour-long video that you filmed for inner circle students the other day with Stratty was amazing. I've watched it like 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. And one thing that I just thought of, I don't know if you spoke to Clay about this yet, but Clay, which is, I think, is he the newest millionaire student, Clay?
He is. He's
Yeah,
number
Clay's
45.
he's the newest millionaire student. By the way, he made like 55,000 yesterday and
I
10,000
saw
today
him.
too.
He was pissed.
Yeah,
He was texting. He's like, it should have been a $400,000 day. I was like, calm down, buddy. Like you're
yeah,
so young. It's awesome to see people not like give in to the money, but at sometimes you also have to realize this isn't an exact science. And if you can pull in 50 grand in a day, that's good. But what were you
yeah.
gonna say? I
But
know we
anyway,
have.
what I was gonna say is he started helping one of his friends. His name is, I forget what his name is, but it's one of his dad's friend's son. He's 28. He started legitimately with $1,000, and all Clay did was call out his 5-star like best trade ideas to this individual,
Yep.
and he was able to turn 1,000 now into $118,000. And his
Sick.
biggest trade was yesterday too. I think this is maybe why Clay is a little salty on it, but he ended up. I mean, Clay's text was literally, "I'm looking to buy the SPY at 479 or 480 and sell it at 520 or something," and it was like picture perfect. But he bought options down there with 18 grand worth, I think, and he sold it at 120K. So I mean, that is like serious, serious money to be able to turn 1K to 120K. And that was just on 4 or 5 trades.
So I
But
was
obviously he was
texting with
going,
Clay.
huh?
I was texting with Clay and he's like, it's crazy to see like my students do better than me. And I'm like, welcome to my life, baby. Like
Yeah.
this is it. This is what we do. It's good to talk it out and have other people, execute and see it. Like we sometimes get in our own heads a little too much. And frankly, other people, they don't necessarily have that like mental baggage. So it's cool. He's coming to Mexico too, I think, right?
Yeah, that would be great.
He
I
is.
think
He is.
he said he was meeting me there. He said he'd see me
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It's look, he gets cold in cold places, but Mexico is warm, so it suits him. You have
Yeah.
time real quick for a few questions from inner circle students?
Yeah. Yeah. Just
All
want
right,
to be off by 7:55 so I can watch the market right at close.
you got it. Wait, what time is it? So you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's do 5 minutes.
All right. This will be like a little speed Q&A. Let's see. Overnight plays have been tricky due to the instability of the market. Do you recommend staying away at this point? From Terry F.
Yeah, Terry, I recommended TBIL for students in the 7-figure cycle to buy, which is a treasury. and it goes up like 1 cent per day, I mean, it's better than nothing. You make, I think it pays like 5% per year, whatever it is, because it's 1 3 month treasury. So if you're looking, it's like you need like a mixed portfolio right now. Like you should allocate some money to trade the markets just to, it's not like you should just totally stop, but you should decrease your risk by putting some money into that T-bill, which I recommended, which downsizes your account. I have some money in that, and it gives me less buying power. Therefore, I have less risk. It's like having a 60-40 portfolio, something like that.
Let me counter that. Jack is rich AF and he doesn't realize how much money he has. He needs to lessen his risk. Most people, 99.9% of people, don't have enough money to trade with. So ignore what Jack just said. Another question in my mind, but good answer, Jack. Another question from Terry. Jack, you said you're not trading in April as it's one of your worst months. What's going on?
Yeah, so I took a loss at the beginning of April, and I was because I lost. I was down like 200K on the month. In March, I only made like 40K after being at 400. So I
You
was
had
pissed about that
500,000
too.
in losses roughly in like
Huh?
2 or 3. You had like 500,000 in losses in like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, 500,000 in losses last week. So I was pissed, but I stepped away. It's like, fuck it, I'm not going to trade. And then just like this perfect setup came along on the overall market. And I was just like, this is too perfect to miss. Like, I have to trade this. It did exactly what I wanted. I was calling for like 2 more gap downs on Thursday. I think I was texting you about it. Like, I want this to panic all the way down to Monday morning and gap
Yeah.
down and then buy it, because over the weekend really creates that max fear gap down.
So just to add to that, I always encourage everyone to be a retired trader. Think that every month is going to be your worst month so that you're not looking to trade. But if the market shows good opportunities like it has, then you come out of retirement because you would feel so guilty missing it. I know it's a mouthful. I know it's counterintuitive, but it works. Jack just displayed that exactly. So he's ready to trade, but he's not looking to trade. One of our other friends, Lucas, was up a lot earlier this year. He's taking some losses. He just tweeted, he's like, I'm going on an extended holiday, like until the market is easier, because it's just bouncing back and forth, and he has such big accounts. One last question from David. How do you gauge risk, Jack? Because he's beating himself up for taking some losses, but then when he cuts them, it goes right back. How do you deal with that?
I mean, to tell you the truth, I had Tesla long on the first initial dump at, I had it at 220, long 10,000 shares, and I had TSLL from after hours at $7 or 680. It was literally the dead bottom of the previous day's close, and then the next day it was, or the after hours it was the low, and then Tesla ended up gapping up and ripping and pushing, and it was great, and I was up 300,000, and then it came all the way back down and flushed the low really quickly, and I ended up stopping out and losing, or making like 50 grand after being up 300K, and I stopped out. Literally, I had my stop loss 220, executed me 217.50, so lost like extra like 30K in slippage just on Tesla, and lost more on slippage on TSL. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like, and then that candle wicked and it ripped all the way back to like 230. So that was, super tilting. And then I ended up getting back in after when it reclaimed VWAP at 1 p.m. And the next day it gapped up and pushed a little bit. And once again, I was up 300K. And then the next day the market came in again. And I ended up selling that at, I had TSLL, and I ended up selling it 10 cents off low a day the next day for another tiny gain. And then I was like, F-. Then I took a few days off because I'd sold. And then the next day, by the way, was green after that too. But fortunately, the stock came back down to 220, tested the low, double bottomed, came back, and then had a volatility crunch in the 230s. And I got back in. And then it went straight up the next day, and then gapped up and went straight up again the next day. And I ended up making 600,000 on the trade. And sometimes it's the same thing with what happened to me the last couple of weeks. Like sometimes I take a couple losses, and then you just step away for 1, 2, 3 days, and you come back with a game plan. Now, it depends. Are you taking the losses on bullshit trade setups, or are you taking a loss on an actual trade idea? I'm taking a loss on an actual trade idea So when it sets back up, I can buy back in. But if you're taking a loss on a day one, if you're shorting something at 5 and it goes to 20, like, what are you going to do? Short it at 20 and cover at 5? Like, the odds of it dropping that fast and that quick are so slim. So you've already blown yourself out, right? I'm just stopping out at terrible times.
Yeah, not all setups are the same. Not all losses are the same. I cut losses a lot and sometimes I cut them too quickly. But because I have that rule, I protect myself and I'm not as scared. I often say trading is not scary if you trade scared. So you get to choose. If you ever cut losses too quick and the stocks do exactly what you want later, try a little more leniency and then, do better. Or if you're not cutting losses quick enough and your account is bleeding and you're very frustrated, try being more conservative. Every trade should help you adapt and learn what better to do for yourself and in the market. Jack, thank you for your time. Everyone congratulate Jack in the comments. $1 million richer. His beard is getting like wiser. He's looking like a prophet. And it's pretty cool to see in real time. And I'll see him in a few days because right now I got to go from Bogota to Bali to Boston. Triple B's, baby. Let's go.
All right. Nice to hear from you. I'll catch you later.
Yeah, wow. My head is spinning. I have to watch this whole video again. He just shared so many tips. Like, please congratulate Jack in the comments below. Leave a comment. Say if you're inspired, because remember, Jack, once upon a time, just 100 months ago, I didn't even realize that it was his 100-month anniversary. Once upon a time, he was parking cars for other people. He studied. Then he practiced, optimized, and now he's sized up. That's the journey, okay? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm not the first guy to turn a few thousand into a few million now. Several dozen students have done it, and Jack and Tim Grattani specifically have made double what I've made in half the time, 2 decades apart, okay? So I'm losing my voice. I got to go to sleep. We opened 2 schools, or we started the process on 2 schools here in Colombia. I'm flying to Bali. Then I got to go back to Boston. I'm all over the place, but no matter where I am, no matter what the market is doing, there's opportunity if you're prepared. That's what I want you to understand, okay? So watch this interview. Watch it twice if you have to. It's okay not to understand. I literally was listening, but I'm like so exhausted. I'm sorry for sniffling throughout the video. I'm like, I just need sleep. But I'm going to watch it again, and I encourage you to watch it multiple times too, because Jack is literally one of the hottest traders in the world, and we're so fortunate that we can like see inside his brain right now. Cheers. Congratulate Jack, and leave a comment below. Leave a comment with like, 2 lessons that you learned. Let's see who gets it.
What's going on, guys? Jack Kellogg here in the work van, just on my way to a nice celebratory dinner to celebrate me having my best week ever trading, which also day trading, right? These weren't positions I was holding. I had no positions coming into Monday, and now I've cleared over $2 million in profits in the last 3 days playing the market bounce. I just made a video with Tim yesterday, and we shared a lot of our opinions on how I made my first 7-figure day on Monday, and I shared kind of what I did, and it was great. And he was a little bit cynical of the market. I was a little bit more optimistic, and we ended up getting the best ever one-day performance on the market on the QQQ. I believe we beat 2008. We closed up somewhere around 12%, which is just absolutely insane. I also called it on Twitter last night. I called the bottom on Monday. Been all over my Twitter feed about my position, and couldn't be more happy with my execution of the trade. And to celebrate too, I wore my chain on the outside of my shirt just to remember where I was just a few years ago when I was just crossing $1 million. Now I'm making double that in just a few days, which is just crazy. The journey that has taken place ever since 2016, 2017, when I started this journey. Can't thank Tim enough. Can't thank everyone around me that has helped me grow and get to this stage to be able to do this kind of crazy stuff I'm gonna go enjoy dinner now and really think about what's gone on over the last week and put my mind to ease in a sense and relax a little.